It's on one of the Brahmavihara, Upekkhā, which is equanimity. And let me give a short bio data of Dr. Ng. Dr. Ng is a medical director of a local non-profit organization that is involved in aged care and aging issues. He has been an active volunteer with the NUS Medical Dhamma Circle since 1988 and was the immediate past committee member of Chakavala Meditation Center. He studies the Dhamma and meditation under Sayalay Dipankara, a disciple of the Venerable 𝐸𝐴𝑘𝐻𝑎 Sayadaw. He participates in meditation retreats in Singapore, Malaysia, and Myanmar almost every year since 1999. In the year 2006, he spent nearly 5 months in Brahmavihara, a meditation center in Myanmar. In the past few years, he has been invited to deliver lectures at the Singapore Buddhist Federation Dhamma class, the Buddhist Fellowship, Kong Ming San Phokasi, Buddha Light International Association Singapore, Wat Ananda, the Buddhist Library, and several other Buddhist organizations in Singapore. So without further ado, let us invite Dr. Ng to give us the guided meditation and followed by the talk for today. Dr. Ng, thank you.
What we'll do today is we will do a preliminary meditation to calm ourselves down, to purify the mind for a while. And then I'll share on today's topic. And then we'll do a longer meditation related to Upekkhā. But even though I say it's longer, it's not that long. We'll finish around 12. Now we'll see how it goes. Okay, so let's start with a short meditation. Sit upright. For those who are new, the important thing is sitting up, being upright. Not tight, but relaxed upright. And then the hands, you can place it anywhere. You can clasp together. You can place it on your laps. Yeah, and then with our eyes closed, make a determination for the next 5 to 10 minutes. Let us be very quiet in the mind. Be very calm in the body. Preparing the mind by making it pure for a Dhamma talk and a deepening of practice on the 4 Brahmavihara, the component of Upekkhā. So let us relax ourselves, starting from the top of the head. Feel the sensations on the scalp, particularly paying more attention on the flowing sensation. Feel the muscles around the scalp relaxing, releasing its tension, flowing down the forehead, relaxing, and the creases, almost our wrinkles, flatten out. So feel the muscles at our temples relaxing as well, around the eyes. Allow the tone of the muscles around the eye to relax into its natural, soft and supple tone. Feel the muscles on our face flowing down, releasing their grip on our jaw so that the jaw becomes very natural, relaxed. And feel the muscles at our neck flowing down, releasing all its tension, allowing the neck bones to recoil to its very natural, slightly curved position, allowing the muscles at our shoulders to relax, soften, melting, flowing, like water from the mountains during spring and summer, melting, flowing down to both our arms, flowing down, allowing the arms to gravitate by their own weight downwards. Feel the muscles flowing all the way to the elbows, the forearms, the wrists, the hands, and all the fingers, as if the muscles are dripping off our fingertips, and that is so relaxing. And the muscles around our chest, feel the muscles soft, melting, flowing, loosening their grip around our chest wall, such that our lungs are free to be themselves. Breathing on reflex, without controlling, without participating, without judging. And allow the muscles to flow down our abdomen. And perhaps we can visualize and imagine and feel the organs inside our abdomen resting one on top of the other, like cushions and pillows in the cabinet. And all the organs are anchored at the base of our abdomen, the center of our gravity. Let the whole body rest itself here. And feel all the muscles around our pelvis, our thighs soften and relaxing all the way to the knees, the calves, and the feet, as if they are all melting, flowing, dripping, all the way to the floor. And perhaps some of us, with sufficient light, we might be able to visualize our skeleton. When the muscles have melted away, what's left is a set of skeleton, bones, our skull, our neck bones, the bones at our chest and our arms, the bones of our spine, our thigh and the knees. We are just skeletons seated on a cushion. We can take a closer look on the texture of the bones. Some parts are smooth, like the long bones in our arms. Some parts are rough, like the bones in our skull and the eye socket. Skeletons, skeletons. No one is special. Everybody is similar. Skeleton, skeleton. Observing the skeleton respectfully, for this is the teaching of the Buddha, that the body is but skin covering muscles and bones, and all the organs within driven into activities by intention, the leader of all the mind states. Activities driven by the mind, driven to sustain itself, hunting for food, for energy, for resources, in order to experience the world through the eyes, the ears, the nose, the tongue, the body, and the imagination of the mind. Endless pursuit of sense contacts allowed because of the skeleton, driven by intention. Even if death were to happen, this mind doesn't end and will create another body somewhere in order to continue its endless pursuit of pleasures of the eye, the ear, the nose, the body, the tongue, and the mind. Not knowing that all this is dukkha. Gently, we can bring the mind back to our body and our mind, and we can open our eyes. Okay, so today is a meditation Sunday. So as the name suggests, our focus is on meditation. How do we learn meditation? So in the Buddhist teachings, meditation is of two kinds. The meditation practice that calms the mind down so that it is single-stated, of a one-mindedness, for a while, so that the mind remains pure and wholesome continuously. This is very rare. Most of our minds are very restless. But in order to let it be less restless, less worries, less either greed or hatred, we make use of an object to calm it down and stay in a single type of mind continuously for 1 hour, 2 hours. That's the first kind of meditation called tranquility meditation. That's the Buddha's teachings. You can find it in Samanapala Sutta. You can find it in Anapanasati Sutta, even the Four Foundations of Mindfulness Sutta. Okay, so the mindfulness on the body, the letting go of all the covetousness and worries around the world, that is releasing all the 5 hindrances, and then establish mindfulness in front of him, mindful on the in and out breath. So that is the first kind of meditation, samatha meditation, tranquility meditation. The second type of meditation is when the mind is really, really peaceful, we investigate the truth, the true nature of existence. So, and that is, of course, we start with the body, but actually you can extend beyond even the floor, the clock, the sun, even the concept of time, or forest. So that is the investigation, using the mind that is very peaceful, unhindered by the defilements. You don't have biases. The mind is absolutely objective, and then you become really, really objective, and then you observe the 5 aggregates. 5 aggregates, for those of you who are new to Buddhist teachings, is really all phenomena in the world is but mind and matter. Okay, then we investigate mind and matter. and not just across space, but also across time. How causes and conditions give rise to results. And as long as the causes and conditions are there, there'll be new, many, many results. So this is the understanding. And after we are very calm, we investigate the world across time and space, and then we realize that it is all pervasively impermanent, oppressed by impermanence, so it's helpless and suffering, and it's absurd to be regarded anything as me, mine, or myself. So that is the process of the second type of meditation, which is commonly, it's a common language these days, Vipassana meditation. So these are two kinds of meditation the Buddha taught. But how do we learn meditation? Two things. One is you need to learn about the object. Another is to learn the skills. The skills, just like cycling, just like being a nurse or a doctor, or a social worker, or an insurance agent, or a businessman, the skills is acquired through practice. Okay, so you have to practice, and then you really learn that, oh, this one, I think something is wrong. I feel I need to send this person to the hospital. So it's a kind of skill and wisdom coming together. And theories, no amount of theories can help you. You have to practice cycling yourself, driving yourself, climbing the mountains yourself, traveling from here to Thailand, driving on a four-wheel drive. You need to do it, then you know, okay? But the object of meditation, there is a theory behind it. Okay, so today our meditation subject is Upekkhā. So I will share about what Upekkhā means. That is the object. The object is actually, for the four Brahmavihara, the objects are beings. Okay, sentient beings. Sentient beings means beings with feelings. By feelings, we actually mean the rest of the mind. Have a consciousness, has an intention, has thoughts, has perceptions, and so on. So the object of Upekkhā, just like the object of the rest of the four Brahmavihara, are beings such as humans, but also animals, and also other beings that are not seen. So these are the object of the four Brahmavihara. But is it like just staring at an object with the eyes closed? No. So the mind need to have a certain reflection, and then using that mind state to hold the object steadily for an hour, 2 hours. Okay, so this is the practice of four Brahmavihara. So I will explain the object, and then we will practice. Okay. Okay, I prepared something, because when it comes to theory, it's better to have references. So after the theory around the object, and then we will practice. I'm not decided whether should we just Karuna, then Upekkhā, or we do the whole Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkhā. We'll see how it goes. Because I remember that week I was doing Karuna, then we do four elements, relaxing the body, and then Anapanasati, then Metta, then Karuna. Then I find it very long. so maybe I'll just do Karuna and Upekkhā. But let's see how it goes. Because when we're impatient, is when the mind is too tight, you need to relax. When we relax, no problem, we can do all four Brahmavihara. So if you find later you feel very bored, you need to put in more effort. If you feel a bit impatient, a bit strained, then you need to relax more. That's a skill. Okay, just a recap of what we covered, and then the object of Upekkha meditation. So we know what is Metta. So we know all the objects are beings, right? But do we know what is Metta? Metta is based on non-aversion. Metta is like non-aversion grown great to become a tree. So the seed of non-aversion become metta. Non-aversion is a state of unconditional acceptance. Like you see a person talk like that, or a person behave like this, or a person who looks really ugly, or someone who looks really beautiful, your mind accept them as they are, as if they are like nature, okay? Like leaf, like flowers. They are normal. That's normal. So that is adosa, unconditional acceptance. And then when we more proactively wish this being to be well and happy, the adosa, the unconditional acceptance, become metta. Okay, so the characteristic is lack of ferocity, non-opposing, promoting the welfare of beings. The function is to remove annoyance, prefers welfare. Manifestation means how does a meditator experience it? It's a removal of ill will, it's a feeling of agreeableness, and the proximate cause. So what trigger metta is when you see beings as lovable. Okay? For example, if you see a cockroach, okay, but imagine you are in very deep concentration, then after that you're walking peacefully, then you see a cockroach, you may feel that, wow, the mom must be proud of him. Actually, that also happened to me. I was in a retreat in Batu Pahat. Then I saw this grasshopper. I don't know why. I was like very peaceful. Then look at the grasshopper. It's so interesting. Actually, there's nothing ugly about grasshopper. It's just perfect as it is. Then this feeling occurred to me. The mom must be really pleased. Yeah. Okay, so metta counteract hatred. But sometimes, if the metta has a lot of attachment, it's unwholesome. You may think you're loving, but actually the mind is restless, has a lot of attachment, there's a lot of shamelessness and fearlessness, and a lot of ignorance. That is the near enemy of metta, okay, which is sentimentality. So metta is very wholesome, but if the mind becomes a lot of attachment, like, oh, the cat is so cute, not metta, okay, or that someone we're attached to, and then we have a lot of love, and then we say, I love you, okay, that may not be metta, that's selfish affection. But of course, can also transform into metta. Okay, the other thing about metta meditation is when we practice metta, we need to be moved. We need to invest in our emotion. Cannot do just chanting. Okay, really care. Okay, that's important. 只可意会不可言传. I can only tell you be moved, but don't know how to move you. Okay. The object of the mind, as we said, is human. So generally, it's easier if the child or human is lovable. Okay, it's not easy if it is an enemy, or it's not easy if it's a cockroach, right, or a snake. So we start with easy things, but that is the object. Of course, when we practice for Brahmavihara, otherwise known as the immeasurable, we have to expand many beings, all humans, all devas, all ghosts, all hell beings, all. So in all directions. So we have to expand to many beings. So later we will try that. Karuna, compassion, the characteristic is the promotion of the removal of suffering. So the object, the nature of Karuna is a bit different from Metta. Metta is wishing all beings well. Karuna is wishing beings free from suffering. And it feels like you cannot bear other beings suffering. Okay, that is compassion. The function is not being able to bear other people beings suffering. The manifestation is non-cruelty. Okay, non-cruelty sounds very odd, but sometimes, you know, when you translate Pali into English, you get this kind of very odd. But when I use Chinese language, so fortunately I know more than one language, 不忍, you know, you cannot bear. So that is a manifestation of compassion. Proximate cause is seeing helplessness in those overwhelmed by suffering. So how does compassion arise? When you see beings that are overwhelmed by helplessness. Okay, therein lies something very interesting. It's not easy to see helplessness in beings, especially when we are not mindful. We don't have empathy. We may not realize that people who are laughing actually could be suffering. We may not realize that people who are very wealthy, very healthy, very youthful are also suffering. So that requires very deep understanding of wisdom. So later, if I have time, I'll explain a little bit. But anyway, I think many of you understand this. Okay? Seeing helplessness in all beings, even those bathed in seemingly good fortune, with wisdom, then you actually can see all pervasive suffering. The success is when you have no ounce of cruelty in that mind. And the failure is when compassion accidentally mixed with ignorance. When it's mixed with ignorance, there'll be attachment, there'll be restlessness, there'll be shamelessness, and then the compassion becomes sorrow. Okay? So that is a near enemy, unwholesome. Okay. So the object is also, you can see the rabbit, being chased. We can't read the mind on a picture, but surely must be running for his life, absolutely scared. Then we look at the cat. What's that cat? It is called minx, is it? Lynx. So must be hungry, Mudita. Okay, mudita we covered last month. The characteristic is gladness at other success. Okay, the function is being unenvious, and the manifestation is elimination of aversion and boredom. And proximate cause is seeing success in others, and it is successful if it causes aversion and boredom to subside. It fails when one is have a lot of joy because you're attached to the happiness of the joy. Then all the sadhu, you don't really mean it. You are really just celebrating over the happy feeling. Okay, I don't know whether you've encountered people like that, but sometimes I have. They're always, because of deep-seated unhappiness, they cling on to joy, and then they like to always be very cheerful, and then like to. Okay, I don't know. So, 越描越黑. The more I say, the more confusing it gets. So basically, some people just cling on to happiness. Doesn't mean that is mudita. Okay, mudita is very interesting. Apart from seeing happiness, sometimes you can have mudita for people who may not be in the pink of health or the happiest of the moment, but I can see that they are doing wholesome things. Then in your mind, you actually feel a lot of sadhu. You feel happy for this person because there's a ray of possibilities of improving the state. And also, even if you were to see beings in woeful plains in hell or ghosts, you can see that every moment they are there, the life spent in that woeful plane is less. There's a possibility of a change. So mudita can be all-pervasive if you add a lot of wisdom and understanding into it. Okay. So also the same. Like Karuna, we need to be moved, just like Metta. You need to feel Metta. Karuna, you need to feel the feeling that you cannot bear the suffering. For Mudita, you really need to feel that very quiet gladness that this is so good, really happy at other people's success and possibility of success, and possibility of an end to suffering, you know. Really, really happy. So the whole world is so full of possibilities. So that is the feeling of metta. So it's like a mother who loves your child, and then you see the child happy and youthful and strong and doing well. It's not your success, it's his success, but you feel really, really glad. Okay, it's like that. So the object are beings who are happy. They could be smiling, you know, they could be recovering from an illness, and they could be having wholesome mind state. So sometimes animals can have wholesome mind state, right? Not just in the picture. I used to have this cat, died already, but when I feed him, some of the cat food fall outside of the bowl. He will eat those first. But before he eat those, he'll come and rub against my leg. He can't talk, but I can feel, oh, this is he's saying thank you. Then I feel, sadhu, 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 okay? So animals can have wholesome mind also, yeah. Okay, today we want to talk about Upekkhā. So Upekkhā is very special. The first four, Metta, Karuna, and Mudita, you practice, there is happy feeling, okay? There will always be happy feeling. So at first there is a lot of thinking of the beings and a lot of joy. Then the mind becomes really, really steady, but it's energetic. That's first jhana. And then when you reflect on this thinking as being a bit troublesome, then you take the object as again, and then the mind just sink into second jhana. So it's a lot of joy, but no more thinking, not very busy anymore. So you feel this is the happiest thing until you let go of that joy and let the mind just settle into very peaceful feeling, and that is bliss. And that is the third jhana. So the first three only can lead to the third jhana. It cannot go into the fourth jhana. So but Upekkhā can. So what happens is you can do any of the Metta, Karuna, and Mudita, and then after the mind enter into the third jhana, very, very blissful, and also described as very equanimous. The mind is very, very balanced. Happiness is not like, this is joy, okay? Happiness is just very, very peaceful. This is happiness. And the mind is very, very calm and balanced. So there's a lot of equanimity. And then when you reflect, this happiness is close to the disruptive joy and also wandering thought. You let go of the bliss and you reflect all beings as owners of their own karma. So add another layer of very profound wisdom, and the Metta, Karuna, the Mudita become Upekkhā, become equanimous. So you don't become unfeeling, cold-blooded. You don't become cold-blooded of feeling. It is a kind of very profound love and care, but add on with very profound wisdom, so the mind becomes still, like being frozen in ice. Okay, so that is Upekkhā. The characteristic is promoting the aspect of neutrality. So all beings are equal. Okay? Like, of course, we have biases. This is my mom. This is a stranger. But with profound wisdom, we realize that there's no being who has never been our mother. Okay? Function, see equality in being. So that is it helps us equalize. All beings are equal. The closest relative and the furthest of strangers. The manifestation is quieting of resentment and approval. So you no longer resent or approve. Oh, this is good, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Oh, this is bad, You no longer like that. You become very, very equanimous. Neither resentful or approval. The proximate cause is seeing ownership of deeds. This is wisdom. Okay, so later when we practice Upekkhā, the trigger for it are the understanding of the law of karma. Okay? Success, when it makes resentment and approval subside. It fails when it produces oblivion or being unfeeling, being cold. Okay, that is equanimity of the unknowing. Some people, they don't know anything, they don't know what's happening in the world, so they're equanimous. That is not, okay? That is not so that is the near enemy. And also, we ignore faults and virtues. Everybody is the same, everything is the same. That is not wisdom. The purpose is the escape from greed and attachment. This is, to me, very important. Okay, so the word for equanimity in Chinese is 舍. 舍 also means let go. Actually, while equanimity means being balanced and neutral, the actual emotion is, instead of clinging like this, we actually just let go. We don't care. Not in the sense of don't love. It's that we don't care what other people think. We don't care what the result may be. We don't care success or failure. What we care is the intention, the wisdom, the mind must be pure. Okay, so that is the letting go. So Upekkhā has a feeling of let go. The object of the mind is all this, You can see all beings helpless in suffering, beings flushed with youth or with recovery on happiness, and beings across the samsara, okay, across all the 31 planes. I've covered this just now. So the Buddha, of course, taught all this meditation, but the actual practice of it is among his disciples, Imagine the Buddha's times in Jetavana monastery. There are monks everywhere. Some are practicing skeletons, some are practicing anapanasati, some are doing very profound vipassana practice, some are doing 4 Brahmavihara, some are disciples of Venerable Sariputta, some are disciples of Mahamoggallana. So all these are the house of the practice. So sometimes from the sutta, it's not immediately clear how to practice. So you have to rely on commentaries by ancient teachers. So Buddha Ghosha compiled it under Visuddhimagga, which was 5th century in Mahavihara in Sri Lanka. So he explained that before you practice Upekkhā, you must have attained to the 3rd jhana of Metta, Karuna, and Mudita. Okay? And then you need to reflect on the grossness of joy and bliss, and being near to approval and resentment, and that equanimity is peaceful. So first, you have a bit of a reflection to sort of remind yourself the flaw of 3rd jhana. Okay? And then you arouse equanimity in a neutral person, then a dear person, then a boon friend, and then a hostile person, then himself. And then you break down the barriers that all are the same. So for Brahmavihara, the nimitta, the sign of concentration, is when you see all beings as equal. Okay? So usually I practice, if I do Brahmavihara, I'll do Metta, Karuna, Mudita, and then Upekkhā. Then because of the experience here, it can be very long. So yesterday I called up my teacher, Siali Dipankara. How should we teach, Upekkhā? And he said, very good, you're teaching Upekkhā. Then she said, start with Karuna. She said, you can do it from Metta or Mudita, but not as easy as Karuna. Because Karuna, you feel it's a lot of compassion, but sometimes if you're not careful, there's attachment, So you have a lot of compassion for all beings, but you have no attachment. You reflect on that they're all just helpless in samsara, okay? Driven by, a lot of it is their own deeds. Our destiny and our luck is related to our karma. You can modify a bit, but the result is not up to us. We can help so that the supportive karma ripens, but whether it really ripens depends on how strong is the destructive karma, of this person. So you have to reflect this way. And then that's you go into Upekkhā. Then I said, 𝐶𝐤, so actually the practice of Upekkhā needs a lot of wisdom after we practice in reflection or in Vipassana. I says, yes. So that is the basis of Upekkhā. It's a lot of wisdom. Okay. Then, of course, we cultivate wisdom either through Vipassana or just contemplation. Contemplation also can have a lot of wisdom. We know, we have faith in the law of karma, although some of us, sometimes we feel, hey, don't know whether got karma or not. But most of us as Buddhists, we believe in the law of karma, Okay, then, and then we can contemplate. And then, after you understand the law of karma, you will understand that these 5 phrases is lock, stock, barrel from the Buddha's teachings in a lot of places. All beings are owners of their own karma, heirs to their own karma. Karma is the womb, karma is their relations, karma is their refuge. It's all karma, our destiny, our luck. Although there are other causes and conditions, but they are secondary. The fact that we are human is because of karma ripening. We are human, okay? And then you enter into Karuna, third jhana, then reflect on the above. All beings are owners of their own karma, heirs to their own karma. Karma is a womb, relations, and refuge. And then you let go of the Karuna emotion and just go into Upekkhā. Okay. So that's all for the theory. We'll do a guided practice. But before that, we'll just switch off the light. It's a bit distracting. Not the light, but the projector. You can show this, but my projector is removed. Okay. Before we meditate, I think it's good to reflect on the wisdom involved in the practice of for Brahmavihara, and that is the Four Noble Truths. Okay, so maybe we'll just do Karuna and then Upekkhā rather than all the Metta, Karuna, and so on. Then we can have some time for discussion before 12. Suffering, a lot of people thought that suffering is just unhappiness, unhappy feeling. And when a person is not having unhappy feeling, then there's no suffering. It's very hard to arouse compassion. But we need to remember the Buddha taught, how did the Buddha taught suffering? The Buddha said that the first noble truth, the truth of suffering, birth is suffering, aging, sickness, death is suffering, being separated from what you love is suffering, being with what you dislike is suffering, and not getting what you want is suffering. In short, the 5 aggregates of clinging is suffering. So the 5 aggregates of clinging is a summary of all suffering. In another sutta, I can't remember the name, I think it's from Majjhima Nikaya, the Buddha described suffering, dukkha, as 3 kinds. The suffering of suffering, dukkha dukkha, or the suffering of unhappy feelings. When we are sick, or when all the separation and being with what you don't like, not unhappy feeling, that is the gross suffering that all of us experience, and maybe that's the reason why we look for a religion. Okay? So that's the gross suffering. The second type of suffering is the suffering of change. Even if you're in good time, you just have to reflect that good time doesn't last. Even if you accept it, you don't feel so unhappy. But the fact that good time doesn't last, bad time doesn't last, good time doesn't last, this doesn't last, everything doesn't last, it is a kind of perpetual helplessness, universal helplessness that all of us experience. So that is the second kind of suffering. So the first kind of suffering is if you see a person sick with maybe cancer or stroke and so on, it's easy for us to have karuna, suffering, because there's unhappy feeling, there's a unpleasant feeling and we can feel it. But if you were to see a person who is in the prime of health, wealthy, youthful, whatever, all the good thing, how do you arouse suffering? Is to reflect that all these can change. And when it changes, when it happens, it's not totally within that person's control. Okay, so that is the second type of reflection. The third kind of suffering the Buddha taught is sankhara dukkha, the suffering of being conditioned. That is existential. So even if a person is an enlightened, sorry? Existential means it's part and parcel of existence. Existentialism is a famous teachings of philosophers from modern era, but in the Buddhist teachings, we know as long as you are a being anywhere in the universe, you have 5 aggregates, of course, except the formless realm. So as long as you have these aggregates, you are subject to this samsara, die, reborn to one set of experience, a realm, and then you die and reborn another. So there's always this mind and matter always together because of one thing, okay, which is your craving. Why do you want? Because you haven't woken up, okay, you cannot let go. You although theoretically you say all these are dukkha, but actually in your mind, maybe I just cannot let go. Okay, so that's ignorance and craving together. So that is existential. Okay, so as long as you're within this samsara, you have these 5 aggregates, and the 5 aggregates are interdependent and always falling apart, moment to moment falling apart. Whether it's a material phenomenon or mental phenomenon, it's falling apart. If you understand dukkha that way, you can even have compassion for the Brahmas, for the Arupa Brahmas, for the Sotapanna Arya, for the Sakadagami, for the Anagami. As long as a being has got these aggregates, it has got that incessant falling apart. So that is how we understand dukkha, and it makes us have karuna better, deeper. Okay, so that's the first noble truth. So what's the cause of the first noble truth? What's the cause of suffering? So the second noble truth, the Buddha in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta say that it is due to craving. Craving for existence, not essential pleasures, existence, not existence. In another sutta in Anguttara Nikaya, he described it as dependent origination, the 12 link of dependent origination. So because of this ignorance, we commit a lot of karma. Okay, either if you are very stupid, we do unwholesome karma in order to get what we want. But if we are very wise, we do wholesome karma. Okay, because of ignorance, we do karma. Because of this karma, before we die, there's a karmic force there that will determine the last thought processes before we die. Some people say, oh, just let go, die, never mind. But they've never seen how people die. If you have dementia, when delirium, you got pneumonia, you got a stroke, you got a massive hemorrhage in the brain, or you got a heart attack, and then there's poor oxygen, you cannot control how you think. So at that time, you are totally vulnerable to the law of karma. So the karma will ripen at the last thought moment, depends on what is stronger. So there are 4 kinds of karma that determines the weighty karma, the habitual karma, the death proximate karma, and the reserved karma. Because of that, then you have a rebirth somewhere. And this rebirth will come along with its 5 aggregates of a special type. Animal, humans, devas, brahmas, and so on. And then as a result, they will have all the 6 sense bases. Of course, in Arupa realm, you don't have those things. When you have the 6 sense bases, you cannot help it. You have contact. You will contact to objects around it. Okay, and what comes into your contact? Many causes. Part of it is karma as well. Okay, then you contact. You will have feelings. When you have feelings, there'll be pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. You will have a habitual craving, clinging, and then because of all this karma that you're committing throughout your life, there'll be becoming and a new rebirth, aging, sickness, and so on. So that is the second noble truth. So understanding dukkha and then Second Noble Truth, helps us help us practice Karuna, Mudita, and Upekkhā. Our destiny, our luck, the results of our action is not entirely due to our intention. There are many other causes that can happen. Only when ignorance is ended, the craving is cooled, then all this becoming doesn't happen. And the only way to arrive at that is the practice of the Noble Eightfold Path. And Upekkhā, Karuna, and so on is part of the Noble Eightfold Path. Where? Okay? It is at the right samadhi, right concentration. It is also at the right thought, the second factor. Karuna is non-cruelty, Metta is non-aversion. Okay? So these two, and then we right view, the rest is right view, and then right thought, and then we keep our precepts, and then our livelihood is wholesome, and then we put in effort to overcome the hindrances, to cultivate the 7 factors of enlightenment, and then mindful on the objects, which is samatha vipassana object, and then at the samatha, give rise to right concentration, and use that to understand the 5 aggregates, and then to give rise to wisdom. Okay, I spent a long time. So, but anyway, I think we'll make our practice easier. So we'll just do Karuna and Upekkhā. Okay, so let us sit upright again. So recall the practice just now where we were very relaxed, when our body were very lax and flowing, and we were focusing on our skeleton, the skeleton that all of us are actually made of. No matter what we wear, how our hairdo or hairstyle is, the skeleton is all the same, only slight differences. No one is special. And then feeling honored and respectful of the Buddha's teachings, that for the next 20 minutes or so, let us devote our time to the practice of the 4 Brahmavihara. Let us visualize ourselves seated here, a man or a woman of a certain age, aging. Even if we are youthful, we are aging. And then surely one day we will have illness, and we will pass away. And as long as there is good karma, which we have a lot, and ignorance hasn't died, we will be reborn, and then carry on with a new life. So visualize ourselves reflecting on the Buddha's teachings. Let us tell ourselves, may I be free from dukkha. May I be free from suffering. Suffering of unpleasant feelings like an injury, an illness, or a low mood like loneliness, boredom, fear, and worries. May we be free from such suffering. And may we be free from the suffering of change, even if we are in the prime of health. All realities will shift, flux, evolve, and change. And may we live up to the Buddha's teachings and be free from samsara altogether. Let the mind be anchored by an image of ourselves and imbued with the feeling of compassion really, really, really moved by the wish that we be free from suffering. Let us expand the mind outwards, embracing all our friends seated in this shrine hall. Some of them we know, some of them we don't. But we know for sure that all are fighting a battle that we are not aware of. May all my friends in this shrine hall be free from suffering. Let us attempt to empathize and perceive the suffering of unpleasant feelings, of the helplessness of change, of being in samsara. May all my friends in this shrine hall be free from suffering. Feel the emotion of compassion, of the strong intention to alleviate dukkha. And allow the mind to penetrate the walls of this building. Visualize all humans living in this neighborhood. People in the bus stops, people in the vehicles, people walking at the pavement, people at the food center, people in their apartments, everyone fighting a battle we do not know of, driven by karma, by objects that they contact with, and by the past habits, helplessly, the feelings helplessly swayed by all these encounters. May all people in this neighborhood be free from suffering. Perhaps we can see that all the bodies are falling apart moment to moment, and the mind always helplessly move because of contacts through the sense doors. Sometimes happy with greed and attachment, sometimes unhappy with aversion, almost always driven by a helpless ignorance. Perhaps there are some with a spark of wisdom. They do good deeds, they help others, they are generous and kind. But still, they are subject to the forces of samsara. And let us expand further, embrace the whole universe of humans, of animals, of beings in the woeful plains, and beings in the heavens and the Brahma realms. May we have a vision of all beings. Perhaps humans and animals are easier for us to perceive. That is fine. Stay with the vision of humans and animals in the whole universe. May all beings be free from suffering, free from helplessness, free from samsara. With the vision of the beings clearly in mind, and the mind stable with compassion, let us recall and reflect on the Buddha's teachings that all beings are owners of their own karma, heirs to their own karma. Karma is the womb. Karma is their relations. Karma is their refuge. And may the mind be neutral, equanimous, looking on all beings calmly, dispassionately, without a trace of attachment. Flushed with a strong wisdom, bright and clear, surveying all beings in this whole universe, beings in woeful plains, humans, devas and brahmas. All beings are owners of their own karma, heirs to their own karma. Karma is the womb. Karma is the relation. Karma is their protection. Let the mind stay with the object, that is, all beings in all directions, across the whole universe. Visions of humans, animals, perhaps devas, brahmas, and ghosts, hell being. Let the mind stay respectful with all beings, equanimous, neither happy nor unhappy, still, stable, bright. Detached. When the mind is losing its energy, remind yourself, where are the beings? Where is the mind? When the mind becomes impatient, restless, tell yourself, let go. Relax to the max. All beings, owners of karma, heirs to their karma. Karma is the origin. Karma is their only relative. Karma is their only refuge. When the mind is too relaxed, put in energy to recall the objects, beings. When the mind is too energetic, relax and let go. Still mindful of the beings. Let the mind stay with the object respectfully, for it is rare for beings to come across the Buddha's teachings, to learn meditation. So we are indeed honored to stay steady on the object. All beings are owners of their own karma. They suffer and enjoy dependent of past karma. Their destiny depended on karma. When they are born out of karma. And the karmic force continues to sustain their life. And when they're in trouble, karma is their only relation. And if they know, they will take refuge in wholesome karma. keeping all beings steady in the mind, like observing photographs of beings, unhurried. There's no other place to go. Just observing all beings, reflecting on the wisdom taught by the Buddha. Let the mind remain neutral, unbiased, unhurried, without any clinging whatsoever, independent. Gently, let us bring the mind back to our bodies. Feel our body, the sensation, relaxing all the tensed areas. Let the mind be really peaceful, mindful, grateful, respectful. And at our own time, we may open our eyes. Very soon, 12 noon. Okay, any questions? Yes.
Thanks, Doctor. I have two very short questions. The first one is that just now you mentioned Upekkhā, describe it as being frozen. I think it doesn't seem to give the idea of balance. When you say frozen, that's the first question. The second question is, what's the difference between, you mentioned contemplation, then you have deep thoughts, discursive thoughts, reflection. So can you just explain the difference between these two things that's always used? Some people tend to use it interchangeably, some people tend to use it differently. So in your case, what is contemplation versus reflection and all this?
Yeah, the second question, I'll answer first. So generally in samatha practice, the mind doesn't do a lot of reflection or contemplation unless it is one of those recollection objects that is very profound. For example, the mindfulness on the quality of the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha, Dana, Sila, and Deva. These type of meditation object, you need to keep reflecting. For example, mindfulness on the quality of the Buddha, you need to reflect Buddho. What does Buddho means? Buddho means awaken. What awaken? Awaken from all of us dreaming, awaken from this dreaming. And then your mind becomes very inspired and you stay there. But because this Buddho is so profound, it's very hard to stay still. So you need to remind yourself, Buddho, Buddho, awaken. Or Arahan, Arahan, Arahant, perfect in Sila, Samadhi, Panya, loved by all the beings, Arahan, Arahan, Arahant. And the mind becomes very still. But because Arahan is so profound, we need to keep recalling. So you need to recall, reflect, contemplate. Whereas for Anapanasati, you just have to be mindful on the breath. Then gradually, the breath becomes very simple. It's just this breath, and the mind stays with the breath, becomes really, really bright, and the mind just stays there, very, very simple. There's no reflection. The mind keeps thinking of the breath only, and that thinking is very peaceful. It's called Vitakka and Vichara. The mind is like stuck on the breath, then happy and peaceful at the same time, and joyful, peaceful at the same time, but very, very still. So that is breath. So there's no reflection, no thinking. Okay. Upekkhā, Karuna, today we did this too. If your mind is imbued with Karuna and the object of your meditation is the being, say for example, maybe you reflect on a friend who is undergoing chemotherapy. She's trying to do her part by eating properly, go for the chemotherapy. She's already overcome her hopelessness phase, okay, helplessness phase, frustration, disappointment phase. She's doing her part, but occasionally she can still be affected. So you have compassion for this person. So you reflect on this so that you can empathize. And then after that, your image when is that person, either maybe sitting on the waiting area for the oncologist, or maybe you're driving her, you see her next to you. So the image is that. And then the mind keep thinking until it becomes stable. But the mind has compassion all the time. May this person be free from suffering. And then second jhana, no thinking, just joy, and then let go of joy, become blissful. And the mind is just very, very blissful, very peaceful. But there's only the image of the person. There's no reflection, no thinking. Okay. Upekkhā is when you realize that all beings are owners of their own karma, as to their karma. It probably is an obstructive karma ripening. Then this cancer happened. And whether she survived or not, it depends on whether there's sufficient supportive karma. Then you reflect on that initially, right? Then after that, you maintain on that object, but the mind let go of the bliss and just stay in a very neutral state without any pleasant or unpleasant feeling. So that is the jhana from Upekkhā, the samadhi from Upekkhā. The mind is very, very still. I use the word frozen in the fourth jhana because in the first, second, third jhana, like in the first and second jhana, there's a lot of joy, almost like bubbling, so there's no, but in the fourth jhana, it's just very, very still. It's like shrouded in a blanket, or like the mind is frozen in an iceberg. But everybody has their own perception. Not everybody feels it this way. So when we practice deep concentration, all of us have our own perception. They are anicca, dukkha, anatta also. So, but most importantly is you need to check the mind state, whether the jhana factors are there. So frozen is just an analogy, Contemplation is the part, law. For complex object, you need to contemplate. Reflect, yes.
Thank you, Dr. Ng, for your teaching today. My question is on karma. So let's say a child got abused in school, then come back, very sad. Then if the parent wants to cheer her up and then say, oh, it's not your fault, and this is... So is the parent telling a lie because they are owners of their own karma and blah, blah, blah? Or should we reflect as it's not a lie because there is no solid being, so no I, my, me, mine. So when I say it's not your fault, it's just a way to help you to calm down and all those. Thank you.
So in a way, nothing is our fault. We are driven by ignorance, so we commit a lot of wholesome and unwholesome karma. Sometimes, because of ignorance, we have stolen before, we've broken all the 5 precepts before. So all beings in samsara is like that. So you can't say it's a fault. A child is abused, or all of us having unhappy encounter, not always due to karma. It is fundamentally due to karma because we have this body, we are born, and then we go through life. But there are many other factors, like the moment-to-moment decision that we make, or the weather, or maybe Okay, I'm actually trying to refer to the 5 laws in the universe. Law of karma is only one. There's another law called the physical law, biological law, and then the other 2 is the psychological law, and then the Dhamma law. So all these laws operate. And so not everything is caused by karma. Some are because of climate change, weather. Of course, all are connected. So partially due to human behavior, but partially also some other various forces and conditions. And even in causation, the Buddha's teaching is not one cause, one result, but many causes and many results. And among the causes, karma is an important one, but there are others, such as habits. So, like maybe some of us just now we had peace, but some of us just now we did not have peace. So karma allows us to be here, to listen to the teachings, practice. We have these 5 faculties which is still intact and practicing. But some of us have got past practices of these 4 Brahmaviharas, so we practice easier. Some of us had a quarrel with a friend just now, so we cannot practice so easy. So there are all these conditions happening. And of course, there are other conditions like what did you see, what did you hear, and what did we do? So in a way, every situation is very complex. There are part of it is something we can do, something the child did. Part of it is something we are helpless with, like the weather, like the biology, genetics. Also something, same for the child. So, yeah, we don't say it's fault or what. It is really something happens, we try to resolve it. If a person is sad, then we try to, and the sadness is related to self-blame, then we actually diffuse it. But if somebody always blame others, then we try to bring in the teaching about you're also responsible. Yeah. So, yeah, that's how I would approach a situation like that.
Any other questions?
Thanks, Dr. Ng. I know today we are talking about Upekkhā, but I think, can I ask you about 4 elements? So I follow what you said that time before you talk about 4 elements. But we understand that 4 elements, what we meditate for 4 elements is the character of the element. Yeah? So like earth element, we know about the hard, soft, and then heavy, and the opposite side. Maybe I would like to ask you more about the water and the wind element. Do you want to explore more about water sometimes? Is it the cohesion and the
flowing,
dispersed fluid?
Yes.
So now can I ask you that, sometimes when we meditate, we're analyzing the elements, we can feel that there's something flowing in our limbs.
Yeah.
Is it the call of water element or wind element? Which one is correct?
Oh, very, very good question. Thank you. Yeah, the 4 elements are indeed the characteristics. Earth element is really the easiest. Wind element has 2 components. There's a pushing and the resistance. The resistance or the stiffness is hard to see. Pushing is easy. Water element is difficult. Among the 4, water is the most difficult. Water, you have to feel the cohesion or the tone or the tension. Also the opposite, which is dispersing, flowing, and so on. So, yeah, this is the theory and the description. Descriptions are just fingers pointing to the moon. The moon itself is when you sit down there and try to feel the water. So sometimes when your mind is not mindful enough, not quiet enough, you cannot feel. So some of us like to practice, if we are used to Anapana, we practice Anapanasati until we are very, very peaceful. Then we go and look for the 4 elements. It becomes easy to feel. Okay. The second question was the one you asked about.
You see, when I meditate, I will feel the four elements.
Yes.
And
the flowing.
I will note the flowing that when we feel there's something flowing in our limb.
Yes.
So I just want to analyze, is it because
it's a wind element.
Is it a wind or a water dispersing?
You will see that if you put your mind there, sometimes you just feel it's a bit flowing or pushing, you cannot tell. Then you increase your mindfulness. It's a little bit like when we hear the bell. When the sound becomes very soft and subtle, you need to increase your mindfulness to hear. So when you feel it, you cannot tell whether it's water or wind. You have to be more mindful. Then you feel it's actually pushing. And it is part of the 42 parts of the body. This is the wind part. There are a lot of wind elements on the surface of our skin that follows roughly. This one is going down, this one is coming up, and then here it goes into 5, and then come back into 5. All they have a certain track, and you can actually feel the pushing everywhere, and that is the wind element of the body.
So if we say wind element, which part of wind element? Because wind element got, as you say, to
pushing and supporting.
Yeah.
Every pushing, there's also supporting. Always. As long as there's a pushing, there's a stiffness. As long as there's stiffness, there's a pushing. So just increase the mindfulness and feel it. So wind is just that, okay? You can see it as tracks. That is concepts. The actual insight, perception of it with the eyes closed, without language, as if we are an ancient person. Okay, we feel it. It's just pushing and stillness, no concept.
And then the reason why I ask this is because we know that by analyzing the four elements, when somebody is sick or not well, actually we analyze more, it's an imbalance of the four elements.
Yes.
So by knowing what kind of element, we can give the antidote to help cure the problem. So
basically it's like that. When it is too cold, you focus on the hotness. When it's too much pushing, you focus on the stiffness. Then you balance the element. Then when you're balanced, then the whole body becomes better. But sometimes you need to take certain kind of nutrition, either in the form of food or drugs, that will help you to balance the elements. But you need to know what kind of drugs. So I think maybe 扁鹊 or 皇帝, they have, because I'm sure in ancient time they got nothing to do. They don't have internet, so they're always quietly observing the body, and then they can tell, oh, this thing has a lot of fire element, the coolness one. Or this thing has fire element, the heaty one. This one has a lot of wind element, so it's good for my stiffness here. Yeah, then they take this food. Maybe they can feel it. I don't know.
But then the next question comes, Dr. Ng, when we know that if we can neutralize the four elements, like if there is a more in this element, we antidote it. Does it mean that it becomes permanent now? Because you can antagonize it.
Nothing is really permanent. So you just increase your loving kindness, your mindfulness and your wisdom, you balance it, adjust it. Then when you're not mindful and you eat certain thing or you do certain thing, it lost its balance again. Nothing is really permanent. Then for me as a Western doctor, oh, too difficult, I'll give you medicine. Easier, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Hello, morning. So now check actually, for this Upekkhā, it's supposed to be antidote to 八风不动.
不一样的 Okay, 有点一样，有点不一样 Yes. This Upekkhā Brahmavihara is based on Tatra Majja Tata, which is the mental factor of equanimity. Equanimity in the Buddhist scriptures have got many, many description of it. including the 7 factors of enlightenment, the last one called Upekkhā, or called Tatra Majjhatthata, which is the equanimity. So when it's basically the balance of the mind. If you like to study Abhidhamma, it is described as the consciousness, the awareness, and all the ingredients, mental factors are balanced. Neither one is more. So the mind is very balanced. So this mind is very sure, very let go, very non-participating. So in the understanding of this equanimity, you can describe as the equanimity facing the 8 worldly winds: praise and blames, fame and disrepute, gain and loss, and pain and pleasure. Okay, so you are equanimous against all these, and the basic mental factor is this equanimity, and this equanimity is the same one as the 7 factor enlightenment, as well as this Upekkhā. But there's another Upekkhā, is the Upekkhā of neither pleasant nor unpleasant feeling. That's a different Upekkhā. There's another Upekkhā, the third kind of Upekkhā is the Upekkhā of Vipassana, whereby the mind just see all phenomenon, past, present, future, all just arising, passing away. So the wisdom is very strong, and there's a lot of Upekkhā. It's a bit different. And this Upekkhā of the balancing of the 8 winds is also similar to the Upekkhā feeling of the 3rd jhana. So Upekkhā as a Buddhist term can be quite confusing. Yeah.
So just want to ask actually, okay, for this Upekkhā meditation which we are currently doing right now, what should be the outcome be, or rather actually how would I feel? It's not like loving kindness. After I do it, I feel very good, very positive.
Yeah.
So, but this Upekkhā, the end point, how should I be feeling?
Yeah, very good question. The end point of Upekkhā is a very is a neutral feeling, without ignorance, a lot of wisdom, and whatever you do out of love or compassion or mudita is very sustained. So we are not driven by passion. I mean, of course, we are all driven by passion, by desire, which is the wholesome one, but we no longer feel our mood swings with results. Whether we achieve success or fail, we are no longer affected. People talk about compassion fatigue. If you have Upekkhā, you won't have compassion fatigue. Yeah. So these are all very lofty emotions. I think I remember when I talked about Metta, I heard from U Mangala, he says, for Brahmavihara, the emotions of the arahants. Yeah.
Any other questions? Hang on. Brother, hang on, Ken.
Yeah, straightforward. The 5 laws
the 5
of which
niyamas.
karma is just one of it, and therefore very complex. The psychological, you said, what's that?
The psychological law. The psychological law is, like for example, if your mind has right attention, that means you see things without having any preconceived judgment that is pleasurable, permanent, and so on. Automatically, your mind, what follows will be wholesome mind. Okay? And another example, if your mind is your usual habit of ignorant, restless, no right attention, okay? The mind is always like the usual restless, ignorant mind. You see a pleasant object, there will be greed. When there's greed, it will be pleasure or neutral, the feeling. You won't have unpleasant feeling. When you have aversion mind, you see an unpleasant object, you have an aversion mind. there will always be unpleasant feeling, no exception. So these are the psychological law. Psychological law, in a way, is quite helpless. When this happens, this will happen, it's like that. So that is the... So, for example, if, say, I don't want to have unwholesome feeling, but yet, today, I see a person that I hate, and then my mind is in the habitual state, I will have anger, unwholesome mind, helplessly. That is psychological law.
Hello. And then I have Mike. Thank you, Brother Wai Chong, for the talk just now. So I had, actually I have two questions. I think they are quite related. So the first one is, when I reflect, sometimes when I reflect on my own death, it has like sober kind of feeling. But sometimes if my mind is maybe not relaxed enough, I will have fear. Then also like how can I go, like what to do about it? Then my second question is sometimes when I see like I think it's, I don't know whether it's correct compassion, Karuna, because when I see like the patients being helpless, I think it's easy to wish them to be free from the suffering. But if I like reflect myself having the same kind of suffering as them, I'm not sure if I can accept it if I'm the one in the situation. So yeah, I'm not quite sure like how I can, go about contemplating or like developing any kind of mental state. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So, contemplating death actually make us have a strong sense of urgency and strong sense of priority and strong sense of balance, okay? That all our worldly politics and competition and the 8 worldly winds are so stupid, so childish. When you think about that, it actually gives that feeling. It can give rise to worries and fear if our mind is not mindful and give rise to ignorance and wrong view related to self. Same for Karuna, same for Upekkhā. As long as there is a wrong view of self, wrong view of accidentally, so it can happen, all of us, because we are not enlightened, so surely, think of, have attachment, have ignorance, then unwholesome feeling will happen. So what do we do is, before we practice contemplation on death, okay, good to do other meditation that calms the mind down easily. Anapanasati or Metta meditation. Then contemplate on death as inevitable, okay? Maybe easier to contemplate on death as inevitable for all beings, not just me. Because when you say, I surely will die, there's a me. This is how we practice, but because in a retreat, we're very protected. But if you are not in a retreat, I will surely die. Oh, very scary. But you can say, all beings will die. No one is an exception. Even the greatest, like Winston Churchill, Lee Kuan Yew, everybody will die. Okay, so like that, then is a bit less scary. Okay, compassion. We see other people's compassion. Don't have to think that, oh, I sure cannot take it one. That's when the wrong view of self comes in already. But wrong view of self, who doesn't have? All of us have. So what we do is we just feel the suffering and wish to help. That's all. Don't need to think that, oh, how can I take it? But you have your own, all of us have our own suffering, So what do we do? Now that we are disciples of the Buddha has prescribed us Dana Sila Bhavana, practicing wholesome deed of wholesome karma, but also practicing paramis, building our character, and knowing that death is not the end, but as long as we are on the right track, there is possibilities that we will rise above. If we are reborn, and we are very rare in the world that we have encountered the Buddha's teachings and we practice rightly, and then if surely we'll be wrong in a good place. And I just hope that wherever we are reborn in, may there be teachers of the Dhamma, and may I continue to practice regardless of where I'm reborn in. That's the reflection. So don't own anything, don't believe anything. Always keep the mind open, having right attention.
Thank you, Dr. Ng.
Okay.
In essence of time, I think let's close this by saying sadhu 3 times for the wonderful morning of this Dhamma sharing. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.